All right, welcome to Postmortem Radio. I'm your host Oz, joined by the man JK from Horror Hound Magazine, staff
Hello,
writer.
Oz. How are you?
Good. How you doing, man?
I'm
Ready for the
doing well,
holidays?
man. Yeah, Merry Christmas to everyone out there. Merry Christmas to you and your family, and hopefully everyone is safe and moving out of the way of the COVID bullets that are out there.
Yeah, I hope everybody out there. I hope you all are safe and healthy and
Amen.
ready for. I don't know if anybody could be as ready as Jay is for look at him. He's got
My man,
Santa. He's got
my
Santa
man, creepy
there.
Santa, creepy vintage Santa, man. He's the
Heck
man.
yeah, man.
And he's got his Faces of Death trucker cap on.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because I always, ever since Horror Hound in Columbus, when they did the Christmas, I made sure to get my Horror Hound Christmas ornament, and I make sure without fail it goes up every year.
It's what you know what, that's one of the few things Oz I have not been able to get is the Christmas ornament. I wish I had when I went to the Columbus show, but I got the shirt, so I can't argue with it. A lot of great memories, because that's one of my favorite shows, bar none, that as a part of Horror Hound, working with them on the convention side, that I've been lucky enough to be a part of. It was amazing.
Oh yeah, that was a fun show. And you know, that one was the first one that Blake went to, and
Right.
he just really was like, wow, I love staying in hotels and I love coming and hanging out with these guys. And you know, we actually I actually got to have dinner for the first time with Deborah Voorhees at that show.
Nice.
So that was really cool, and it was really neat because we were sitting there with that table, and I just kind of looked over, and you know, I have never seen Ted White. I've seen him at conventions several times. First of all, not only is he my favorite Jason, but he's
Right.
just legitimately one of my favorite people. I mean, that dude, talk about a body of work, man. A dude worked and doubled John Wayne. And, you know, a lot of the things that go into stunts today, were pioneered by that guy.
Right.
You know,
right.
Everything from where, you know, from the riding horses to the way they choreograph fights. You name it, and Ted White has probably had done it. But whenever you see him at a signing or at a convention or whatever, man, is always dresses so classy. He's always got a nice blazer on and everything. Just always just such class. You can't. There's no substitute for class.
No, there's not. And Ted White's, when I had a chance to meet him at one of the Horror Hound weekends, and when getting close to his retirement from the convention scene, and I'll tell you what, he couldn't have been nicer. He signed my Friday the 13th NES game, which was very cool. Yeah, it was very cool to be able to have him do it. But he's one of the best Jasons, bar none. And you know what? Everyone goes towards Kane Hodder, which is nothing wrong with that. He's tremendous, but you look at the range of actors and stuntmen that have been a part of it, and that's one of the few franchises that have really had some really amazingly talented performers bringing Jason to life. So, you know, you can't go wrong with Ted White.
Absolutely. And, you know, the thing is, you know, like I said, he always just dresses so classy. The funny thing was this was like, I think Saturday after the convention was over, we're down in the hotel restaurant, and I see Ted White walking in a tracksuit. I was just like, what? Because when you only see somebody dressed to the, you know,
right.
It was a nice track. It was a nice jump, you know, warm up suit type thing. It's just, I've never seen him in like sneakers or like gym, you know, pants or anything like that. But he came in and he was sitting at a little table over with Judy Aronson, just drinking a bottle of wine, just chilling out. And I was just like, you know, and it kind of like warmed my heart, because they have a bond, man, back to from when they were filming that movie, man. He stepped up and was a hero for her, you know, when she was filming that scene in the water, and he stood up for her and put his job on the line to get, and was thinking about her, you know, and she still ended up getting hypothermia and was sick for a long time over that. But he stood up to, and you know, and I mean, I really admire that in a guy, you know.
Yeah, you can't go, as I say, you can't go wrong with Ted White and all the stories that are come from set, and especially in horror, where a lot of horror from that era, you know, didn't have the safety regulations, didn't have unions, you know. I mean, it was, they were flying by the seat of their pants to get the particular sequences and shots, and you know, it was some amazing stuff and memorable stuff from that era. But it's also at times it makes you kind of question what they were willing to do to be able to be a part of it. So.
Yeah, and one thing I will say is every panel that I have seen where Ted White has been on the panel, that
Right.
guy steals the show.
Yeah.
He would every panel. So, you know, I know he's up there. I'd be surprised if he, you know, I mean, if he does another, I mean, I know he does Dark Delicacies out in
Right.
LA every once in a while, small little signing. But if he, man, I mean, if some of them are out on YouTube. So you can find
Right.
him on YouTube. So if anybody wants to check him out, man, his stories are just, I could just sit and listen to Ted White talk for hours because his stories are just crazy. They're so funny. And he's such a funny guy.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is.
But well, tonight what we're gonna do, we're gonna talk about some Christmas movies. We're gonna get in the holiday spirit.
Love it.
So Jay's got his Santa hat on. I've got my UK visor because I'm ready to head to Florida, man. After
game, man.
Yeah, after Christmas, man. Me and the kid are gonna jump in the Bronx and we're gonna boost on down to Florida, man, to watch the Cats play Iowa in the Citrus Bowl. We're gonna get out of here and get rid of some of this cold weather and enjoy some sun and some nice weather and tailgate.
They picked the right state to be in. I mean, it's beautiful down there. The weather's been good here in Jersey because I'm in Jersey, Northwest near Blairstown. Actually, talk about Friday the 13th.
Oh yeah, that's what's on my bucket list.
Yeah, man. It's tremendous. Actually, I'm moving into a new studio right now. It's a little chaotic behind me, but it's, you know, the Citrus Bowl is such an amazing bowl. It's got such a storied history with it, and to be able to head down and be a part of it really is.
My buddies that are coming down from high school and college, they've been before.
Right.
My buddy Todd that's come down there, he was down there a couple years ago when they were in the Citrus Bowl and they beat Penn State.
Right.
And freaking text me and picture from his freaking seats, and I was like, you prick. How do you not even say something about, hey man, hey Oz, you go meet us down there? I would have been there. Benny Snell broke the rushing record in that game and everything, man. Nice. But anyway, hopefully we have as equally a good time as at this game too. But anyway, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk a little bit about some Christmas movies.
Right.
So I mean, and not just, I mean, I know we're horror, we love horror and all that. So we'll talk about some horror movies. But I mean, there's some other pretty good Christmas movies, man, that are like on my must every season. I gotta watch, man. So I'll start with you, man. What's one on your list that every Christmas or every holidays you gotta get it in there somewhere by the holidays?
For me, Scrooged. I love. Oh my God, Scrooged for me is one of my top 3 favorite films of all time. Really? It's also very much a horror movie. If you really see how dark it gets through it, it kind of has horror vibes that shoot through it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, but I mean, Bill Murray is just tremendous, and you know, David Johansen's in it. I mean, just among others, Carol Kane. You know, touch me again, I'm gonna rip your goddamn wings off. I mean, every time someone gets near me, I think about quoting that line. But for me, I mean, it really is my favorite, not only Christmas film, but it's one of my favorite films because it's got such an incredible inspirational ending to it, and it's a must every single holiday for me. At the very least, if I watch it at least once. I used to watch it on AMC when I had cable all the time, but now I watch the Blu-ray and DVD. But it's just got a certain style, and it's a great adaptation of that classic story. What about you?
For me, my favorite Christmas movie is probably, and people are, this is a movie that you either love it or you hate it.
Okay.
And I think a lot of it is because they tend to run it for 24 hours straight.
Oh, Christmas Story. I knew you were going to
Yeah.
say that.
And
I'm
see,
on the fence.
I always loved that movie before they started doing the whole 24 hour. Yeah,
Right.
I think 24 hours. I think that, I mean, I think that's a little overboard. I mean, I get it. It's Christmas and but I mean, you've got to be able to come up with some other programming. I mean,
right.
You can piggyback it with some other stuff, but
well, it's changing though. You know, it's so funny as you talk about the Christmas traditions on TV because I was overseeing my mom and she talked about how like the Peanuts, their Charlie Brown Christmas, and the how the Grinch Stole Christmas, and you know all the old time cartoons really aren't on the the basic channels of 2, 4, 5, 7, WPIX 11 and stuff like that. They're all bought up by Apple and Netflix and Amazon, and and now you can stream them anytime during the year. But for you and I,
it's not the same.
Exactly right.
It's not the same.
Yeah, it's nice to get out to a new generation, but yeah.
The other thing that about those were always a tradition that we would watch them. We would watch it, and it always seemed like it was the week of Christmas. Like
right.
One night it was Frosty and Frosty Returns. One night it was Charlie Brown. Next one, I know. But now it's like, even if those programs are on TV, they're on like December 2nd or something. Yeah. It's like, come on, man. It's not even, I'm still digesting the turkey from Thanksgiving, So, I mean, I'm not even ready for Christmas yet, and they're already airing this stuff. So it's like,
oh, it's crazy, dude.
So, actually what I used to do was I used to DVR whenever they were on. And then I would, especially when my kids were littler, and then I would just like stack them up. And then one night we would just blast through them all in one night, a couple of nights before Christmas. But like you said, now they're all, they're not on. They're
not. They're
all streaming or people brought them out on a disc or whatever, Blu-ray or whatever. But it's just not the same as it being on, live TV.
Well, it's not the same anymore even with Thanksgiving. I remember for a good, decade-long stretch, Home Alone used to be on every single Thanksgiving night on NBC, and it was there, and you would watch it. But it was one of many of this original holiday content that has kind of been pushed away. And whether you want to talk about it as the cancel culture because of how it comes off towards people, which is ridiculous, but or the fact that people just want content. It's a missed void when it comes to the holidays anymore. Freeform used to do it all the time. ABC's a station that's like flipped to another name now, but they used to have the 30 Days of Christmas, like AMC for the longest time had 30 Days of Halloween or 30 Days of Horror. They had it on AMC forever. Then they stopped doing it. Then they picked it back up when The Walking Dead became popular, and then Shudder came out of it, which they said, well, we don't want to show too much horror now, so we'll put it over to a paid station. I get the fact that AMC is the foundation for Shudder, but it's kind of like pushing it off to the side because it's too much for them to show on their airwaves. But the same thing goes as for holiday content on NBC and ABC and CBS. It's just shameful. It's a missed part.
It is. I mean, everybody gets offended. Everybody finds something to be offended by. It's like nobody has a sense of humor anymore.
No.
I mean, it's all, so all that offends me because it reminds me of something from my childhood that is traumatic to me or something. I mean, really? Come on.
Well, so you know what? Don't get me wrong, Oz. Don't get me wrong. I see what they're talking about, but
I understand
what their
point is, but
not everything needs to be canceled when it comes to it. And a lot of holiday traditions. I mean, one of the things that I grew up with my sisters as well, and a whole generation that's in my age, and probably anyone under the age of 35 probably doesn't understand is, when they used to have like catalogs, they used to cut out stuff and make up lists for Santa and stuff like that. And all that stuff is kind of just pushed to the side. And there's really not any of that anymore. And that's why you see these holiday movies and, whether it's horror or not, you should cherish these things because there's so far few of them anymore that actually fall into that category at all.
Yeah, well, and it's the whole the internet type thing too, because you mean, nobody gets the paper anymore on
Right.
Thanksgiving for the Black Friday ads that used to
Right.
be in the paper to go out and shop and go,
Yep.
oh man, I got to hit this store, and nobody gets the Toys R Us catalogs
Right.
anymore, or
A
the
lot of
candy
great
toy
memories.
that used to, oh, you couldn't wait till it came in the mail, and then you're circling everything that you want.
Right.
And then putting your name next to it, oh, I want this, so that your parents could go looking through and see, okay, yeah, right, you're getting that, but okay, this I could put on your list, but yeah, the whole cancel culture stuff's just just crazy.
Let me ask you a question. So let's go back to the time when you're making a Christmas list. What's a gift that you really wanted that you got?
The number one gift and it still is probably,
Right.
I say, my best Christmas gift I ever got when I was a kid was my original 8-bit Nintendo.
Wow. I have mine somewhere around
When
here.
I got,
Yes.
yeah, I got it with 2 games came with it. Well, really 3. It
Mario
was
and
the
Duck
Mario
Hunt.
and Duck Hunt
Yeah.
together, and then also Double Dribble came with it.
I love it, dude.
Oh man, my cousin Rick and we used to sit and my grandmother we used to drive her, God rest her soul. Grandma, I apologize, but I know she had a little tiny 13-inch color TV that used to sit on top of her refrigerator in her kitchen.
Right.
And when we would come over for like Thanksgiving and holidays and stuff like that, I always brought my Nintendo, and I was always, with the forks with the adapter on the back.
Yeah.
And we would sit it on that kitchen table. And we're taking up the entire round kitchen table, and me and Rick are just sitting there playing, and it's so funny because now Blake looks at those videos and those games and he's like, God, Dad, how did you play that?
Oh, it
looks so man. And I'm like, you know what? That's because you don't appreciate. I'm of the pioneer era where I can appreciate how far video games and graphics and what you're seeing comes up. It didn't always look like it does where you're like looking, it looks like you're actually watching a real game. No, I remember playing Super Tecmo Bowl when the screen was all sideways and you had to Bo Jackson up and down and then nobody could catch Willie Galt on a kickoff and run it all the way back for a touchdown. But yeah, that was probably my number one all time best Christmas gift ever. How about you?
Awesome. Well, I'd say NES is up there for sure. I love NES, and I made the point to get another NES when I got older, and I still have it. I have a lot of my games from before because the NES crapped out, so I wanted to replace it. But one of the things for me has always been Transformers. I love Transformers, Optimus Prime. Just looking at the way that they came, they were big. And the thing that sucks about it, Oz, is that, at that age, you don't realize how amazing it is. At least I didn't. And I go now and I come across them in vintage stores and I look at them and they're hundreds of dollars now. And I'm like,
I know.
Forget the fact of selling it, just the fact of how much it means. And that's one of the things, I'll use Creepy Santa here. My aunt up in Sussex, New Jersey, she had 2 of these and she was going to throw them out. And I'm like, I'll take it. I'll take it. I mean, how can you go wrong? And now with my girlfriend, Susan Decker, when we moved into our new place, we were getting ready to set up the tree. And she goes, where's Creepy Santa? We can't have a Christmas without Creepy Santa. And you look at this, look how beautiful this is. Yeah. It's from a different era, but Transformers, G.I. Joes, they were the best, man. Oh my God. I go to some of those. Cobra Commander, man.
Oh my God. Yeah. Did you ever try to get the hood off and see what he looked like on it?
No, I never tried to get the hood off. You're killing me.
But no, man, as far as G.I. Joe goes, man, I had everything except the aircraft carrier because the aircraft carrier, I didn't have any fucking room for it. That's probably the only reason. But man, I had everything. I had, like you said, I had the original, the Transformers. I I had all the Constructicons. I had the
Yeah.
Dinobots.
Oh, my favorite
I
was
had
the Dinobots. Easily the
oh
Dinobots.
yeah,
Are you
yeah.
kidding me? Oh my
Grimlock
god.
was the
Really?
shit. Grimlock, man. I had Omega Supreme, the one with
Makes
the little
it
freaking
free.
train thing.
Yeah.
I had Jetfire, the big ass red and
Right.
white. I mean, the original Soundwave. That's the thing that I hated about
Oh,
when they came out with the movie, and Soundwave was a stupid satellite or something. I was like, no, Soundwave needs to be the cassette,
right.
dude, so that he
Exactly.
pops out of his chest
Exactly.
and he throws the disc and it
Right.
changes into the freaking
Right.
hawk and it goes, and then he has to. At least they did the sound of the voice right. And in the movie, I liked that they had the original Optimus Prime. I can't think of
Right.
the guy's name. Is escaping me right now, but they had the guy who did the original voice. That was
Right.
kind of cool. Now the one thing I will give the movie over the cartoon
Okay.
is I like what they did with Ironhide.
Nice.
Instead of being
Yes.
now I liked Ironhide's voice and character
Right.
in the cartoon, but I like that they made Ironhide a kind of a badass looking
You're
truck
right. Exactly right.
instead of a freaking Toyota minivan or something like that. That I thought that was cool, and I thought Ratchet was cool because he was a Hummer, but he was
right.
But I had all that stuff too, man. I had all the GI Joes. I had He-Man, Castle Grayskull,
He-Man. Oh my god, dude!
I had all those things, man.
And you know what's great about those, real quick? Is great about it is because when you had the figures, now you look at it and you're like, this was. I don't necessarily know if this was even healthy to be around this, but they had like the fur on it. Moss Man had the moss on them.
Yeah,
and Destro had the helmet. I mean, it was just the focus on detail was just incredible.
Yeah, specifically with the He-Man. I mean,
yeah,
every dude was completely ripped and had like 2% body fat. Yeah, I mean, there was no fat whatsoever. I mean, you could see every like muscle in their rib cage and stuff. It was just great.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
So what else you got on your list about Christmas movies, man? What else
well, do you want to talk horror Christmas? You want to talk regular Christmas?
Whatever you want to do, man. If you want to talk horror Christmas, I know everybody's going to say you got to say Silent Night, Deadly Night, but I was
it's not even on my list.
No, it's not. It's not me either. It's specifically 2, because I will argue to the death about part 2, because part 2 is 75% part 1.
Of course it is.
I used to argue with Chris about it all the time. I was like, the little bits that they added is not worth sitting through it again. But what I always try to make it through Black Christmas at least.
Oh, Black Christmas is fantastic.
Black Christmas is great. I love
it. And
you
know what? People talk about it, Oz, and someone brought it up recently that Black Christmas is the prequel to Halloween.
I've heard that.
I never thought of it that way.
I don't know that it was necessarily a prequel, but I think I've read where Carpenter has said where he had met and talked to Bob Clark.
Right.
And I think he took a lot of influence from Black Christmas.
Absolutely.
And what's funny is people, if you don't know, Black Christmas, Bob Clark did Black Christmas, also did A Christmas Story.
Exactly right.
Which is kind of funny.
He's got a twisted way about him, man. I saw an interview with him talking about it. And he's like, it's the happiest time of the year, but it also is the highest suicide rate of all time. It's like you're right. You got to look at it that way. So
that's true. That's true, because and a lot of it goes to loss. And with people, their first. And I look at my mom, because my mom, and this is the second Christmas really without my stepdad. So,
right.
It's hard. I mean, my mom said they were together over 25 years, married over 25 years. I mean, I can't even imagine. I mean, and my grandparents, both sets of my grandparents, over 50 years until, one of them passed away,
Wow.
To be with that, and have them, that person who's been the staple, who's your that's your person. And then and then after 25, 50 years, that person's just not there anymore.
Right.
I mean, I'm not an advocate. I mean, I'm not going to say that, it's a good thing. But I mean, I can understand that kind of pain and that loss and grieving to the point that would be one of the highest, suicide rates.
It is people around the holidays. There's many people, it becomes a tough time, whether they've lost family, whether they're alone during Christmas, whether the holiday memories weigh them down. I mean, there's a lot of weight that comes along with Christmas and a lot of baggage that comes along with Christmas. But Oz, I'm sorry to hear that you've had to experience that. It's exceptionally rough. I have known many people who have the worst times during Christmas. Seasonal depression plays a huge part into it. But, that's why we talk about all these different Christmas movies. And one of the ones for me is Santa Claus, the movie. Oh. I love Santa. John Lithgow. He's such a great villain in it. And Dudley Moore, who really, Dudley Moore, did Dudley Moore ever play a good guy? He's always like a sleaze. In Arthur, he's a sleaze. He does. What's the one where he's sleeping with the two women and gets them both knocked up? And one of them's the daughter of a wrestler. That one, it's the Santa Claus movie. He's trying to screw Santa Claus with the candy cane. That was one of the few movies once I saw it, and I picked it up later on when it came out finally in DVD. I literally went to the store as a kid and I started eating candy canes. And I thought that they were gonna have some magical powers to them. And I got so sick, dude. Oh my God. It was crazy. But that's one of those few Christmas movies that's kind of left to the side. But it's got such a distinctive look to it. It feels like it most of the time, I don't know if it was shot really dark, but it feels like it's a dark version of what Christmas is supposed to be. It's crazy, man. I love that movie. And for you, what's one that sticks out that is not so popular?
One that's not so popular. I still think it's popular, but
okay.
One that I've noticed, and I've watched a few podcasts and stuff. One that I've not heard people talk about.
Yeah.
That I like to try to get in every Christmas is at least the first Bad Santa.
Oh, Bad Santa.
Bad Santa's good. Movie. I mean, it's such a bad movie. It really is a bad movie. But Billy Bob Thornton plays such a good. Well, you were talking about Dudley Moore. He plays such a good sleazeball.
Oh, always, dude.
And I think Bad Santa was John Ritter's last movie that he made.
I think you're exactly right.
I think that was his last. And as good as much, I always loved John Ritter, but when I watch Bad Santa and I see him in Bad Santa,
right,
he is so good in that movie.
Yeah, he is.
And what little bits that he has, I mean, and specifically the scene that I go to is where after he's realized that Billy Bob Thornton Santa is a bad, and he's talking to Bernie Mac. And you can feel how uncomfortable he is. I mean, and that's a talent that he legitimately looks. I mean, he's playing a part of course, but that is just exudes from him where he's like so hard trying not to say something offensive to Bernie Mac about these midget or but not or maybe the little person, but not the weird fingers but the like not the
exactly
the regulars. I mean, he's so good. He's so good. And then my favorite line is he's not going to say fuck in front of the children, is he? No, that's a joke, an adult joke for me and you. I mean, that movie is so. I look at it as somebody sat down, and wrote that script as like, okay, what's a list of all the things that Santa Claus would never do or say to kids, and when they go to see Santa Claus, and that you have Bad Santa.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Well, and that's so funny because when you look at a lot of these movies, you don't really find many movies that are inappropriate when it comes to the holidays way back when. But the funny thing about the 1980s is, and if you look at a lot of the classics, and I'll use Ghostbusters as an example of it, there's no way Ghostbusters is PG-13. Not a chance if you look at it, if you really sit down and go through it. And that's the same thing with a lot of the holiday films that came out during the era. They were so family friendly. And then as you got more into the 90s and the early 2000s, that kind of shifted. And one of them that comes to mind is Just Friends with Ryan Reynolds and Amy Smart. I mean, it's such a great movie. The idea of the holidays, Ryan Reynolds coming back in this redeemed form from being heavy, and then him going through and reconnecting with everyone. I mean, there's freaking comedy gold in there. And, there's so little that seems to be off limits in that film. And it's so much fun to sit there and watch. And I know people have never seen Just Friends before. And man, you just sit there and you just laugh, Oz, through the entire movie. It's so good. Not as raunchy as Bad Santa, mind you, but there was some moments in that movie.
That's an excellent, excellent descriptive term, adjective for that movie. Raunchy.
God,
yeah,
it's so good.
It's definitely, God. I mean, but I mean, and the cast is so good in that movie.
Well, they have so much fun. Holiday movies, you usually get these all-star casts who have so much fun on there, but they're shooting it in like July. So it's the holidays, they're shooting like June and July. And, I mean,
I always wondered if that's why they said they were out in like Arizona, because it's really July wherever the hell they're filming this at. And so they just said, well, screw it. We're not going to fuck around with the snow or any of that other bullshit. Right. We're just going to say we're in Arizona.
We'll mass produce the snow. All around and stuff. But that's a great movie. I mean, Just Friends, Bad Santa, they're just great movies, and they go outside the box of what the holiday movie should be. They're holiday movies for adults, basically.
Yes. Well, and another one is, in this one, I always love to open up. I always love that debate on whether a movie is a Halloween or is a Halloween. Whether a movie is a Christmas. I promise there's no bourbon in it, because I've really not been.
Oh, dude, I could use a little of that right now.
Trust me, I was planning on it, but the past couple of days I've not been feeling that great. So
you and me both, dude.
But one that I loved, and people will argue it, but to me, Die Hard, man, Die Hard is ultimate, is an action guys shoot 'em up Christmas movie, no doubt about it. In my mind.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I loved it. Loved Die Hard.
But is it a Christmas movie? Is it a Christmas movie? And that seems to be the thing that goes back and forth. It takes place at the Christmas party. I mean, it's a Christmas movie.
When it ends, and they're playing the Christmas music as it. I mean, that's all you should. That's your proof right there.
Christmas. It's a Christmas movie, just like Lethal Weapon is a Christmas movie.
Yes,
takes place during Christmas.
I agree. It's a Christmas movie. Yes,
it's a Christmas movie as well when it comes to it. And those are some of the great ones that kind of ride that border. That's what makes horror Christmas movies so great. Santa's Sleigh with Bill Goldberg is one of my favorite ones of all time. Santa's Sleigh. Oh, I love
I cannot watch anything with Bill Goldberg.
Dude, it's so over the top. It's so great.
After I saw him in that god awful Universal Soldier: The Return.
Oh, dude,
that was so horrible.
He's given carte blanche to rip through people, and he wears the Santa. It's so good, dude. For those who have not seen Santa's Sleigh, which I saw it on FearNet, like, God, it's got to be over 10 years ago now, maybe more than that. All the dates blur now as I'm getting older. But Santa's Sleigh is one of those movies you just sit back and you say, you know what? I'm not going to take anything serious. Like Jingle All the Way. Jingle All the Way, Arnold Schwarzenegger playing a dad. First and foremost, we know it's not going to turn out good because he can barely act as it is. But the movie is so much fun as he runs through people, and Sinbad's in it. And he's got the bomb. He's got the bomb with the police officers. And you know I'm crazy. And he throws it up and it explodes. It's great. But those kind of movies, man, you just suspend your disbelief on life and the holidays, man. How could you not like Bill Goldberg as Santa Claus? What am I missing here, Oz?
maybe I got to give it a shot, but
Oh, dude.
he's just,
It's terrible. It's meant to be terrible, Val.
I can't even watch. I
Terrible.
can't watch it. I can't anything with John Cena in it, man, because he's
Oh,
just so
John
bad.
Cena. Yeah, but you know what though?
He almost single-handedly ruined Bumblebee.
Well, Bumblebee was a terrible movie. Please stop.
I'm sorry. Don't.
It's a terrible movie. Terrible. When do we need an origin story for Bumblebee? Come on. Do we really?
Don't need it.
No, we don't.
I appreciate it. I love Bumblebee, and I love the classic VW. And you know what? If it, that would be I loved Bumblebee.
Oh Lord!
But every time John Cena came on there, he made me want to turn it off.
John Cena. I will say this right now. John Cena, maybe not in acting circles. I agree with you on that. But in wrestling circles, John Cena, The Miz, a handful of others from that generation will not be appreciated until they're long gone, because they were some of the best wrestlers of that era. I love those guys. You know what? People boo. I was there when John Cena returned at the Royal Rumble, and I'll tell you what, man, the reaction John Cena got, no one next to maybe Daniel Bryan has gotten a reaction like that for such an extended period of time.
I haven't watched wrestling in a while.
Oh, dude. 30 plus years, and it hasn't gotten better.
I quit watching when The Rock and Stone Cold stopped wrestling
full
time. So
25 years ago, man. 30 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever.
It hasn't been that long.
It's been a long time, dude. It's been a long time. What was that like? What, the late 90s, early 2000s? Somewhere's around there.
Yeah, I think Blake
wasn't
born yet, and he's going to be
20 some odd years ago, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Boy,
it just, fast. I mean, I don't know. I don't know any of the guys wrestling anymore. I mean, I started watching a little bit of AEW,
right,
with Cody,
right,
and they had Arn come back with and Tully with his daughter and stuff. So I watched a little bit of that, but then I kind of fell back. I don't know. It's just not the same to me anymore. I mean, I just don't have time to watch it like I used to. When I watched it, I had time to watch it. I didn't have to.
Right.
Now I just don't have time to dedicate to it anymore. I'm lucky I can get through the shows that I watch regularly now.
I get it, dude. I get it. We got responsibilities, folks. Newsflash. Yes, we got other responsibilities, and we're getting old.
And I know, and I gotta start checking off some more of these for the film festival for March too.
I know, they right around the corner. Shameless plug: the Horror Hound Film Festival coming to Cincinnati, Ohio, or Throngville, Ohio, as part of Horror Hound Weekend. What, mid-March this year?
Yes,
something like that. It's like the third weekend of March, I think it is. Go to horrorhoundweekend.com. You'll see it all right there,
and on Facebook
too. And Zoe is doing a great job. Nathan and Jeremy and all of them are doing a great job. We're back strong, and knock on wood, we moved through this next variant, and we're there all in March. So knock on wood.
Yep, and it's gonna be a good show. It's gonna have a Scream reunion.
Yeah, I know, it's gonna be wonderful.
Yeah, with the new Scream movie coming out, so there's gonna be some Scream guests there. It's gonna be a few guests there from Halloween Kills.
No. We know where you're going to be, young man. We know where you're going to be. Well, yeah, let me ask you a question. Because
sure,
I talked on the podcast radio show Horror Happens, which I've been doing forever, to Roger Jackson, who does the voice of Ghostface.
Does the voice for Ghostface, yes.
And he's
I need him on my poster back here.
Oh, well, hopefully
right
you'll
there.
See. Hopefully, I had him signed.
Can't really see it, but it's up there.
Oh, there I see it.
Right there.
Boy, you're gonna pull a muscle, dude. I have the Jiffy Pop, the promotional Jiffy Pop.
Oh, dude, really?
He never signed one of those before. It was awesome to me. So I had him on the program. It was a little bit of an awkward interview because he's done so many things that it's hard to go beyond Scream, but it's a hard program. So anyway, the point I wanted to bring up is I watched all 4 Screams in a row. Okay. And I never did that before. I watched them at different points in my life. And I'll tell you something. If everyone watches 1 through 4 in a row, Oz, you get a whole new respect for it. Because before that, after the second Scream film, I wanted nothing to do with it. So my question for you is, do we really need a new Scream? Do we need a new Scream?
Do we need one? No. Will
So
it?
why do we
I'll
have
tell
to
you
have
right
one?
now. The only way it makes sense to me
Right.
is if they bring, and rumor has it that Matthew Lillard is in the movie.
Good. I like
So
that.
the only way that they get me, they win me over with it. I mean, I'll go see it because I'm a horror buff. I love the Scream series. Still love the very first Scream movie. It's still my, favorite.
Right.
As if for some reason they figure out some way that Stu didn't die.
Oh. How
And
can you possibly go into that with a new angle? I mean, they did it millennial on with 4. I mean, how do you go into this? I mean, it's just like, come on. It's a cash grab. It waters down the franchise.
Oh, it's absolute. It's 100% a cash grab.
God.
It's 100% a cash grab. But I mean, Matthew Lillard stole the show for that in the first Scream movie for me. I mean,
I'll be right back.
No, it wasn't even that. The guy that I identified the most with was Randy.
Of course, most people do.
Yeah,
most people.
Which I was totally bummed when they killed him off. But Stu was the guy that I wanted to be. He was the cool guy. He had the hot girlfriend. He was so funny, and especially there at the end when he improv some of those lines, where Skeet accidentally hits him with the phone. That was not scripted. Hit me with the phone, dick. So they left it in. He had no idea they were going to leave that in. He thought they were going to cut, and that was going to be, but they left it in. It was great. And then I think that my mom and dad are going to be so mad at me. I think that was scripted, but
it's a whole great sequence.
But it was so funny. I mean, he just pulls it up, and funny, and he's such a cool guy too.
Yeah,
because when I met him at Indy, Horror Hound, the one we had at the the big convention center down there, and I had met Matthew Lillard before, but a friend of mine's son is a big Matthew Lillard fan and a big Scooby-Doo fan, as am I. And he was supposed to come to the show to meet him, and he wasn't able to meet him for some reason. But Matthew Lillard, I bought the pop, and I was going to pay to have him sign it, send it to the kid, because he's special needs. It's the same guy that I talked about, same kid that I talked about, that Chris Nelson, that I tracked down at age 40. And you know what? He didn't even charge me. He signed it, and it was great. I mean, I loved. I mean, it's such a great guy. He didn't have to do that. I was ready to pay for, and he didn't.
Well, you know what? He appreciates who he is in the world and what he means to fans. And one thing I will say, and I'm hoping it's changed some, Oz, since going back, it's got to be 3 or 4 years ago, the Texas Frightmare, is the fact that the price for some of these Scream actors was outrageous. And they were, don't get me wrong, they're cashing in on the climate of The Walking Dead. They're cashing in on how the prices continue to rise. And you have every right to make as much money as you can. And if people want to pay it, God bless you. But they came in with some really high prices. And I looked at it and I just shook my head. I'm like, how can you charge that? Even for a legendary film series like Scream, whether or not you like the sequels or not, it's a legendary film series. It reinvented, not forget the slasher genre, but just horror in general.
It really brought horror back, because horror was kind of dead.
Yeah. 90s is one of the worst periods. Yeah.
When they kind of brought it back to, and made horror cool again.
Right.
I mean, to us nerdy horror lifetime guys, horror's always been cool, but it kind of gave it, some legitimacy to, what we love, and it gave us some newer films to watch, so we didn't have to keep going back and rewatching all the old, good ones and a lot of the really bad ones. You're absolutely right. The Scream really brought, because without Scream, you don't have the the Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Jessica Biel.
Right.
You don't have the reboot of Friday the 13th.
The remake of Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Hills
Which is
Have
a
Eyes.
really good film.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a really good film.
Well, and another one is Last House on the Left. The remake of Last House on the Left. Really, really well done.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it.
There's a handful of films that, with the polishing up one of the classic films and reinventing it, succeeded. And Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Hills Have Eyes, those two come to mind all the time as ones that you really sit back and you go, you know what, this might be beautiful people and glamorous and stuff, but they kind of took that edge in a different direction. They didn't want to make the gritty, grimy one. They wanted to make in their own image. And I can't fault them for that. And the same thing goes for Scream. And you hear Wes Craven when he was alive talk about how he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to be a part. He wanted to be stuck in the same thing. He wanted to make movies he wanted to make something outside of horror, like Music of My Heart. Oz, to the day I die, if you ever ask me what's my favorite Wes Craven film, it's Music of My Heart. I really love that film. Well, it's kind of tongue in cheek, but it's a really great film. It showed his diversity. It showed how broad he could be as a filmmaker. But for me, it's The Last House on the Left is my favorite of his. It's just incredible. But taking on Scream and what they were able to do and how smart it was, it was just something that was amazing. So it's one of those turning points in horror history that it's up there. If you want to put it in the top 5 in horror history, you could easily and arguably do that, because Scream pushed us into the next 20 years that we're going through right now for so many different reasons. So
yeah, and I think that may be part of the reason why they're bringing some of these franchises back. That's why they're bringing another Scream back, is because I think they're grasping at something.
Right.
Our horror is cool, but I see it kind of losing a little bit of popularity in recent years. The Walking Dead numbers are down, and I think a lot of it is the series. But excuse me.
Well, my question is this,
we need some new material out there.
But that's the problem, though. How many fans that are not Walking Dead fans, which means you're staying on the outskirts of what real horror is with The Walking Dead for the most part. Mm-hmm. How many fans want to actually invest in the new filmmakers? And I'll give you an example of another great Christmas movie is Better Watch Out, Chris Peckover's film. If you have not seen Better Watch Out, you are
Santa lost his hat.
Santa's lost his hat. Well, you're missing out on a tremendous modern day Christmas classic. It's all about a babysitter and the two guys that she's babysitting, except when you go through this film, it turns that whole trope on its head and it becomes somewhat of a version of Home Alone. And it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of scares in it. There's really some characters that you come to despise in it. And it's just holiday horror fun. They do an incredible, and I don't think this gives away too much for those who have not seen it. I highly recommend to go watch Better Watch Out somewhere over the next week. But there is a scene where they recreate the paint can scene. And it's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. And the way they shoot it, they don't give everything. They don't give you the full payoff. They make you work for it. And it's absolutely wonderful what Chris Peckover does. But you're right about the fact of horror being kind of not on a decline, but a lot of the Walking Dead fans don't want to invest in more horror. Shudder is great, but I got news for you. Shudder is a very niche aspect of it. And that's why Horror Hound Weekend, we have just horror actors, directors? No. We have TV. We have a wide range. We have sci-fi, because horror is such a niche art form, Oz. So you know what? It's not a surprise that there's been the drop, but it also depends on what you like. If you like elevated stuff, and I hate to use that word, but like A24 and Neon, then there is a ton of amazing horror out there. There's a ton of great stuff, but you've got to be willing to go past the classic 1970s and 80s horror and move into the new generation.
Well, and that's what Scream with Scream, it brought horror back into the mainstream, and horror is like slowly getting out of the mainstream again.
Right.
So we need something Scream-esque to make.
Well, they tried to do that. Trick or Treat. They
Yeah.
tried to do something like that. But guess what? You have to know when to sit back and say, you know what? I really want to expand this universe, or is it a cash grab? Saw became that a lot. Saw
Absolutely became a crash grab because
it became a cash grab.
After part 3, I got so confused. I mean, I had to sit down and be like, okay, this is going on. Okay.
Right.
I had to sit there and talk myself through it okay, now I understand.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I think, with Halloween coming back with the 18 and Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, I'm hoping that something else is going to come along off of its heels to, give us the next great series or next something.
But the problem with it is, though, Oz, you know what? And this is exactly feeds into what I don't like. Why do we need to have the next great series? Why do we need to let people like Ari Aster and Jordan Peele and this new generation of filmmakers create new IP and new content when we have everyone running back to Halloween? Why? Why do we need something new when we've got something we can retool and repackage and remember the 1980s instead of going forward? Why?
That's valid point.
Why?
Valid point.
And I'm not shitting on, I'm trying not to shit on Halloween and Blumhouse. Blumhouse has put out some amazing films and they've done some revolutionary things for horror. But the truth of the matter is, if we're gonna, why don't we just rehash Phantasm next? And let's do God.
Hey, I would be up for that.
Yeah, but you know what? Is it going to be the same? I mean, let's do Friday the Third. Let's do Nightmare on Elm Street. Oh, wait a minute. We don't want to do Nightmare on Elm Street because we don't want to deal with micro naps and we don't want to have a different actor there. We want Robert Englund. Come on.
Hey, you know what?
Stop.
I will be the first one to say I was not a fan of the reboot of Nightmare on Elm Street, but it was not because of Jackie Earle Haley. I thought Jackie Earle Haley did an amazing job. I thought he made Freddy creepy again. Because Freddy to me hadn't been creepy since Dream Warriors.
It was all cartoonish. Robert Englund was a cartoon.
One-liners and funny. And and I love Robert Englund. And the very first Nightmare on Elm Street scared the living shit out of me.
Yeah.
But Jackie Earle Haley, that movie was, it wasn't his fault that movie didn't succeed.
No. And a lot of times it has nothing to do with the performances that come in. It's a lot of times it comes in the edit, it comes in the way that it's packaged,
or the writing,
which is a big thing. Yeah, of course, but you know what? You have so much pressure on you to be able to do something with it. And you look at Saw with Spiral that just came out last year with Chris Rock and then Darren Bousman, who directed it. And I'll tell you something, it's a pretty decent spin-off of what Saw was. But the truth of the matter is that people want what they want. They want the hardcore classics. They have a hard time investing in things. That's why, folks, film festivals are wonderful, because guess what? You're going to see that next generation of incredible horror storytelling, great characters, blood, gore, but also stuff that's not just surface level, stuff that's not tits and ass, stuff that actually makes you think. It challenges you. And if you want to be challenged, if not, head back to the 80s. They're waiting for you.
Right. Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
I mean, I would be all in for a Phantasm, but I mean, again, you're going to have those, like you said, those people that are like, well, how do you do Phantasm without Angus Scrim?
I know.
You just,
well, how you do Nightmare on Elm Street without Robert Englund? People can't seem to let go.
It can be done. It can be done.
I agree. It
with you. It can be done.
And maybe Elijah Wood might be doing it. Who knows?
The only one that has me, that I'm kind of like really not on the fence for, and that I've heard recently has got greenlit, was that they're going to reboot Christine.
Yeah, I heard that too. Well, it's the renaissance of Stephen King.
Now, the only way I think this wins me over is if this reboot of Christine is closer to the source material of the book and not the way, because Carpenter kind of went off and did his own kind of thing.
Right.
And it was very, very different than the book.
Right.
I mean, because when I went back and I read the book after I had seen the original Christine,
Right.
or well, there's only one Christine, but because I was a kid and I wasn't reading novels Stephen King was a kid, but I loved it. So I was like, years later, I started reading the book. I'm like, holy shit, this is completely different, but it's fucking which is crazy because usually if I read a book and the movie is different, usually I do not like it.
Right.
Another one that I thought was cool that was different from the movie was Hannibal.
Yeah.
It's very similar, but then the ending is completely different. A lot of things different, but I loved it. Now,
nice.
if they were to do that and they make it closer to the book material, and that kind of then instead of the car like really being alive per se, like I said, I'll go see it regardless because obviously I'm a Christine fan.
I can tell, yeah. Well, that's a conversation for another time with it.
Oh yeah,
because
sure.
when it comes to this with Christmas movies, what's one more that you really enjoyed before we jump off with this?
Christmas. We did Die Hard. We did. You know what? Okay, and this one is going to be. I'll tell you, is a guilty pleasure.
Go ahead.
It's called. It's a reboot of Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Okay.
It's just called Silent Night.
Yeah, Stephen Miller's film
was that. Yeah, the one with Malcolm McDowell.
Yes.
For the chick in the wood chipper.
Yes.
Oh man, crazy movie. It's and I'm gonna say, like I said, it's a guilty pleasure because it's really not a good movie, but it's entertaining.
Yeah.
If you can get through some of the scenes like being tied up with Christmas lights and a chair and
God, I love
and think
it,
like,
dude.
really, you can't get out of that. I mean, seriously. But I don't know, that's one that I like to try to, if I've got some extra time, sneak in there. Santa Claus with a flamethrower, dude. I mean, what?
Oh, it's the best, dude. Santa Claus with a flamethrower. And I interviewed Stephen Miller when that film came out. And I'll tell you what, man, he had such a ball doing that film, man. He had such a ball doing that film. And you know what? That's the great thing about the subgenre of horror, the holiday horror. There's so many different films you can go to, and there's something for everybody.
Oh yeah. Well, like we said, Bad Santa, you got comedy, you got horror, you got Die Hard for action, you got,
exactly.
You
know what's a really dark movie? And I'll leave it with this. It's a Wonderful Life. You watch It's a Wonderful Life. It's incredibly dark. Now there's some really nice moments where where they get together and they fall in love and throw the lasso around the moon and later on. But man, that film gets incredibly dark. And I didn't really realize that, Oz, until I watched it last year. And I'm sitting there, I'm going, my God, what is he talking about here? This is supposed to be a family movie. And it's not the fact of suicide. Everyone knows, his life's been erased. If you haven't watched it, I don't know where you've been. You've been under a rock. You haven't seen It's a Wonderful Life. But the point is that it gets deeper until you become an adult. You don't realize how deep it is, or at least I thought it was deep. It's like, holy shit. But that's a really, like Scrooge, it's a really dark movie that's masked as a holiday film. And it's crazy, man. I wish Alfred Hitchcock, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't recall that he's ever done one, has never done a holiday movie. That would have been a freaking trip if he had done one, man.
Yeah. I would have loved to have seen Hitchcock do a comedy.
Oh, I would have loved, his wit, man. I've read a couple of books about him, one of them being The Dark Side of Genius. And I'll tell you, man, his comedy would have been so sharp. It would have, the timing, everything would have been so sharp and so amazing. Give me one second. There's one more movie I want to mention because it's, speaking of really disturbing films during the holidays.
Okay.
I Trapped the Devil. It's on the IFC Midnight. It came out a few years ago by Josh Lobo. You guys want to see something that's full of dread that really takes the idea, and we were talking about Santa Claus the movie before, with how dark it looks, how the way they filmed it. If you want a movie that's not only will make you feel holiday dread, but makes you feel tense through the entire thing, it's wonderful. A husband and wife go to visit a brother who's in this isolated house. And basically, the brother says to his brother, he goes, I've trapped the devil. He's in the basement. And basically, the whole movie is based on whether or not you believe that what the brother is saying, the brother character is saying, is true. And it really fucks with your mind. But it's based during the holidays. It's got all the Christmas lights. They use them in a really haunting way. It's really it goes on a very cerebral level, but it's a holiday movie at the core of it. And it really addresses seasonal depression, really the dark side of the holidays. And it's a fucking trip because the voice work done in it, oh, it's terrifying, dude. It's awesome. Yeah. I Trapped the Devil. I highly recommend it. It's one of those new films on IFC that really is for me, it's one that I tend to watch throughout the year if I want a really great portrait in cerebral horror. But holiday movie, it checks the box as well if you like holiday horror kind of films.
All right. Well, I got a couple of things to watch then. I got to watch.
Yeah.
I got to watch. What is it? Santa Slays.
Santa Slays.
And then I Trapped the Devil.
And Better Watch Out. If you haven't watched Better Watch Out, watch Better Watch Out. That's the one you should watch out of all of them. You will thank me later. I guarantee you, Oz. You'll thank me later.
All right. Well,
ho ho ho.
Oh ho ho. Now I have a machine gun.
I love it, dude. You filthy animal.
Oh yeah. All righty. Well, hey, we're gonna wrap it up, you guys. We will be back we'll be back after the New Year's. Jay will be back with us.
Yes.
He's gonna be a regular on the show.
You will see me.
We're gonna start putting out more content. I've got another video that's gonna come up soon. My son and I, we went to Steel City, and we got to go to Monroeville Mall for the first time.
Nice.
Got to check it out a little bit, where they filmed the original Dawn of the Dead, James A. Romero. So I put a little quick little video together. I'll throw that up. You guys check it out. Yeah, we're gonna get some more content out there, do some more episodes. Maybe even have some special guests here and there.
Awesome, dude.
In the new year for 2022. So lots of exciting things, and special shout out to Sean Clark and Christopher Nelson. Thanks for the shout out on their show. If you're not watching it yet, check out The Thing with Two Heads on YouTube. They're also on the Slash and Cast network. And then also, of course, Sean's ever so popular Horror's Hallowed Grounds. Check that out. That's always a treat.
Yes, it is. I love it.
Well, everybody be safe. Happy holidays. Stay
Merry
healthy.
Christmas.
Take care of each other. And we'll see you in 2022.
See ya.
Peace out.
Peace out. Thank you.
Where's the recording button?